The Jedi have tracked Count Dooku, but Anakin has gone missing in the process. It is up to Obi-Wan Kenobi to find out what has happened to him. Obi-Wan quickly locates Anakin within one of Dooku's jail cells, reuniting him with his lightsaber, revealing this has all been a plan for them to get close to Dooku. The pair encounter Count Dooku in his chambers, meditating, with him quickly fleeing via an escape hatch, to no surprise to Obi-Wan. Anakin decides to follow him directly, while Obi-Wan instead goes to cut Dooku off. Dooku is able to get a lead on the pair when his escape hatch breaks off into two separate tunnels. He makes it into his hangar and is able to flee via his ship. Anakin and Obi-Wan are in hot pursuit when they commandeer a separatist shuttle to chase after him. Obi-Wan informs Ahsoka of their plan, who is with Captain Rex on the Resolute, monitoring the situation. The Jedi are able to shoot Dooku's shuttle down, with him crash landing on Vancor, with them also having a rough landing due to damage they had sustained by separatist fighters. The Jedi discover that Dooku has placed a homing beacon on his damaged shuttle. They decide to investigate the nearby caves, not realising that Dooku has lured them into a trap, where he causes a cave-in and is able to steal Anakin's lightsaber in the process. As Dooku exits the cave, he notices a huge saucer-like craft, encountering a Weequay pirate gang run by Hondo Ohnaka. As the Jedi recover from the cave-in, they encounter a Gundark while Dooku negotiates his way off-world with Hondo. Taking Dooku to Florrum, Hondo has confiscated the two lightsabers Dooku had on his person, accusing him of being a Jedi. Dooku quickly corrects him. Hondo knows how valuable Dooku could be, but knowing that if he contacted Dooku's allies to pay the debt, they'd also defeat Hondo's pirate gang as well, deciding that his best option is to contact the Republic, who'd no doubt give him a higher amount in return. As Anakin and Obi-Wan focus on lifting the debris in the cave to make an exit path, they accidentally rupture a gas line, causing the cave to fill with toxic gas. Ahsoka and Rex catch up with them just in time by destroying the rocks Dooku had collapsed in front of the entrance beforehand. Before another Gundark can attack them, Ahsoka orders the clones to reseal the entrance to the cave. Hondo contacts Chancellor Palpatine to negotiate a price to exchange Dooku. Palpatine requires proof that they actually have Dooku alive before agreeing, stating that holograms can easily be faked. Padme requests that they send Anakin and Obi-Wan to verify Hondo's claims in person. Obi-Wan and Anakin arrive on Florrum, unarmed as requested, where they are guided by the Weequay pirates into Hondo's camp, and thus a discussion with Hondo where they state that they just want confirmation that Dooku is indeed there. Hondo has arranged a meeting where they indeed see that Dooku has been captured. Dooku is calm, assuming that he will soon be free of this predicament, and gives them a warning that they are blind if they think these Weequay pirates will let them leave so easily. The Jedi have been invited to a banquet held by Hondo and the other pirates. The Jedi, being suspicious of the drinks they are handed, swap them with another two drinks being used by the pirates. It's quickly revealed that Hondo drugged not just the drinks that the Jedi switched, but the two others they had drunk as well, and they are now placed within the same cell as Dooku, with his ominous warning having come to pass. The pair of them have been bound together with Dooku, who promises to stop talking if they can come up with an idea to escape. One of Hondo's pirate aides, Turk Fulso, plans a mutiny behind his back, deciding to sabotage the ransom exchange for his own means. Senator Karras and Jar Jar Binks make their way to Florrum, but are promptly shot down, leading to Karras' death, forcing Jar Jar to take up the mantle as leader of this mission. Turk decides to deal with any survivors. Back in the cell, Dooku tries a hand at escaping, only to be constantly criticised by Anakin's insolence. Dooku's attempt at first seems successful, but they are noticed by Pilf, Hondo's Kowakian monkey lizard, who brings reinforcements to recapture them. Having been returned to their cell, Hondo threatens that if they try to escape again, he will have to dispose of them, but he doesn't want to do this because he has some level of respect for them, with this situation being purely just business for him. At the crash site, the clones plan their next moves with Jar Jar, while it's Obi-Wan's turn to try and escape by using a Jedi mind trick on one of the pirate guards. Turk and the other pirates begin to approach the crash site, getting the attention of Jar Jar, forcing him and the clones to flee when they get attacked by them. The clones feel the odds are stacked against them, but Jar Jar has an idea to gain an advantage. Jar Jar and the clones ride the native wild beasts, where they are able to catch up with the pirates and attack them, regaining the spice. The Jedi and Dooku have managed to reach the outside of the pirate compound and attempt to jump over its exterior wall. They are shot at by the pirates, causing Dooku's tether to snap, and he almost falls before Obi-Wan catches him. Anakin is unable to climb up due to the full weight of Dooku, but before he can even attempt this, a disappointed Hondo appears before them, with them being recaptured yet again. The clones notice power lines, which allow them to trace the location of the pirate compound. Hondo gets manipulated by Turk, convincing him of the Republic threat, and thus being able to get permission to use their tanks to counter the survivors. The clones decide to use Jar Jar's specialities to their advantage when the tanks approach them. Hondo has separated the Jedi from Dooku and is holding them in the main room of his complex, with Anakin's arguments causing the pair of them to be electronically shocked by Hondo. The pirates decide to take Jar Jar hostage in order to include him in the ransom exchange for more spice, but Jar Jar's attempt to go with them backfires in spectacular fashion, causing him to destroy the pirate tanks and cut power to the compound, thus freeing the Jedi. Dooku is also able to use this distraction to escape, while everyone else is occupied by the loss of power. The Jedi reclaim their lightsabers and hold Hondo hostage, causing a standoff between them and the other pirates. As Dooku leaves the compound, he uses the Force to kill Turk and his accomplice, who hoped to get away before Hondo noticed. Jar Jar arrives at the compound with the spice, but due to Dooku's escape, they are no longer willing to trade. Obi-Wan decides to release Hondo, wanting to leave on even terms. They have no quarrel with him and do not seek revenge, but offer a warning that Dooku will not share this sentiment. The production code for Dooku Captured is CW116, while the Gungan General, being produced 4 episodes later, was CW120. Both episodes were written by Julie Siege, with series writer Henry Gilroy and supervising writer Scott Murphy getting additional credits. Dooku Captured was directed by Jesse Yeh, while the Gungan General was directed by Justin Ridge. Catherine Winder produced both of these episodes, with the Gungan General being the last one she would solely produce before Carrie Silver was brought on as her successor. Dooku Captured was released on January 2nd, 2009 as episode 11 of season 1, being the first episode of the Clone Wars to air in 2009, while the Gungan General aired a week later as episode 12 on January 9th. The winding path to peace is always a worthy one, regardless of how many turns it takes. Dooku Captured was the first episode of the Clone Wars that was pitched directly by George Lucas himself, having enjoyed the process of being highly involved with the production of previous episodes. This marked the start of the stories always originating from the creator of Star Wars himself, something which stayed throughout the remainder of the show, including the 10 unfinished story arcs that amount to 40 episodes. This episode was the first time that really focused on just the duo of Obi-Wan and Anakin, with their past episode interactions either being very brief or separate. By this point, Ahsoka has gotten to know the pair, with her outrightly criticising their actions, with Obi-Wan sitting back and watching the fireworks, so to speak, because he had this exact scenario back when Anakin was his Padawan. You can see that the individual seams of Obi-Wan's armour move separately from each other at the start of this episode, confirming that they're not one solid piece, but actually individual segments. This episode marks the first production appearance of Dooku's chambers with his meditation platform, which would go on to make further appearances within the show. A line of dialogue about Dooku being taken to Coruscant was cut from re-releases of the episode post its original airing. This episode confirms that Dooku stores his cloak on his ship, considering before he enters it, he does not have it on, but in the next shot, where he's in the cockpit as it's leaving, he is seen wearing it. The original script featured a Saboth starfighter in place of the reused shuttle from Bombach Jedi, in a reference to the Jedi Starfighter game that was most likely cut due to asset limitations. This episode is also the first appearance of the interior design for the Trade Federation Separatist shuttle, previously seen in CW-105 Bombach Jedi, where it notoriously does not contain an interior. Obi-Wan has noticeable discomfort with flying the shuttle due to his inexperience with one. This episode marks the first appearance of Hondo Ohnaka, a character who would reappear frequently throughout the Clone Wars, whose last appearance was in Season 5's revival, though it's highly likely he appeared in one episode of the unfinished Bounty Hunter arc to progress Boba Fett's Code of Honor story arc by returning the Slave One to him. Hondo's Kowakian monkey lizard Pilf was originally planned as two separate individuals, twin brothers Pick and Pilf Mukmuk, but they were ultimately merged into just Pilf. Hondo's pirate saucer ship, a Corona-class armed frigate, is something George Lucas wanted the pirates to be depicted with. The design originates from unused Doug Chiang designs created for the Neimoidian ships for the Phantom Menace, based on retro 1950s-style flying saucers. The design was also considered as an Aldarian vessel, but was cut from that role as well. The sound design of the saucers also used the same technique as the 1950s Alien movies, utilising a theremin. George Lucas was very specific about what aliens represent what factions, with the Weequay being a common presence within pirate groups. Lucas was very direct with wanting lots of different pirates within each shot, so they'd have to make an efficient production system where a lot of the background pirates are reskins of the same base model that's either male or female. They would then add variants of additional objects onto the models to help them stick out more, being a big step for the production team who hadn't done large crowds of characters who weren't identical clone troopers or battle droids. The episode also is the first to visually depict a Gundark on screen after their species were first mentioned all the way back in 1980 within The Empire Strikes Back. They tried different variants of Gundarks during the design process, with their ears being very prominent, but George Lucas liked a pre-existing design created for them, but allowed some wiggle room, such as having a slightly more wolf appearance and 4 nostrils reminiscent of a tauntaun. The Jedi shuttle, created for Lair of Grievous, shows up yet again in this episode, showing the production team's reuse of assets. Early concept art for Florrum depicted it with a more choral rock aesthetic, compared to the more orangey desert canyon vibe it has in the final episode. Another piece shows Hondo's pirate base being featured within a blue cliffside with UFO-like holes, presumably to store his saucer craft within. A third piece of concept art shows Florrum with a crashed separatist frigate surrounded by tall rock structures and a completely black sky. It's interesting how the hologram technology makes Dooku's red lightsaber look blue. This could be a subtle nod to how the lightsaber did used to be blue before he fell to the dark side and changed it to red. Dooku being captured allowed the Jedi to have a conversation with him that wasn't during a duel. Dooku captured features the first time on screen that Jawas would be seen on a planet other than Tatooine, something the Mandalorian would continue to depict. A commonly reused generic Nikto model is reused at the end of this episode, sitting next to Anakin. Fail with honour rather than succeed by fraud. The Gungan General is the second produced episode to include the more orchestral live instrument version of the Clone Wars intro theme tune, which would be used for the remainder of the show's run outside of episodes produced beforehand that aired afterwards. George Lucas was very interested in the idea of Obi-Wan and Anakin being tied up and forced to work with Dooku. They found the animating of the tether between the characters difficult to implement. In the scene where Hondo is looking out the window, you can tell that the outside environment is a 2D image and not a 3D modelled environment. Turk talking to Hondo about getting the spice makes me think about the unfinished Bounty Hunter arc, which featured the planned on-screen introduction of the spice mines of Kessel in its second episode. We also know that Boba reclaims the Slave One from Hondo at some point within the arc. Both of these things make me inclined to believe that the second episode is the one that featured Hondo, taking place before both the assassination attempt on Mace Windu, revealed to be a part of the arc this past April, as well as the Sierra Leone's insurrection that would have been the arc's final episode, with it perhaps being a bounty job that Hondo has hired the bounty hunters for in order to steal spice, to sell it, to get funds to rebuild his pirate base after the Separatists heavily damaged it during the Youngling arc. The aspect of Jar Jar having to become the leader of the clones is something that interested production season 1 head writer Henry Gilroy. He thought that it would be the clones' worst nightmare and ripe for exploration. The Gungan General is the first of 3 episodes to feature Jar Jar Binks being voiced by someone other than Ahmed Best, who previously had reprised the role for the earlier produced episode CW-105, Bombad Jedi. Jar Jar's voice was credited to the unknown individual B.J. Hughes, and for the longest time we didn't know who actually voiced him, but it was revealed in 2020 that this was actually an alias used to hide the fact he was voiced by Phil Lamar, who also voiced many other characters within the show. It is unknown why they decided to use this pseudonym for the character. This is the same practice that Michael Jackson used when he provided his own voice for the Simpsons episode Stark Raving Dad, being credited under the alias of John J. Smith. Lamar would also voice the character within the 2-episode Blue Shadow Virus arc, before the character wasn't used again until near the end of the second production season with CW224 Supply Lines, which would feature the return of Ahmed Best, who would continue to voice the character for his remaining appearances within the show. Phil Lamar would return many years later to provide the voice of Jar Jar within the game LEGO Star Wars the Skywalker saga. This episode again features another reusage of the Republic attack shuttle, with it clearly becoming a popular reusable asset amongst the production team, though this time we get the added benefit of actually seeing its interior, an asset that would get reused for a different ship in Season 2. George Lucas specifically added the element of Jar Jar being respectful when laying Senator Karras's body to rest. The top of Senator Karras's staff is a clear reference to the one used in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, being the headpiece to the Staff of Ra, though they stopped short of adding the red crystal in the middle to prevent it being too similar and making people question whether Star Wars and Indiana Jones are somehow in the same universe. The speed bikes used by the pirates are reminiscent of the model that both Ahsoka and later Kanan Jarrus would own. In the development footage for this episode, Hondo's model wasn't present, with him instead using the generic Weequay pirate model as a placeholder. Obi-Wan sailing Dooku was included to show how Obi-Wan's Jedi teachings make him want to save Dooku's life in that moment, to do the right thing. You could also connect it to how technically Dooku is a part of Obi-Wan's Jedi lineage, being the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, so perhaps Obi-Wan was also doing it from that standpoint of Dooku being a part of his deceased master. This episode features what some people incorrectly assume to be the origin of the phrase clanker, but as previously mentioned in my Kidnapped Hutlet video, that phrase has actually been used since the beginning of the Clone Wars, with its real-life origin being from the Republic Commando video game. The term within this episode isn't even used to describe droids, but the tanks of the Weequay pirates instead. The tanks were designed by concept artist Wayne Lowe and inspired by the skiffs featured in Return of the Jedi, while the beast creatures were called Scouders and designed by Sergio Paez. Just like the practice they use with clones during the proxy animation stage, Turk and his accomplice both feature character name labels. Hondo's described as a third party and independent, with his story being about morality. This is something else that makes me inclined to believe that he features within the Unfinished Bounty Hunter arc, which has Boba Fett go through a similar character arc where Cad Bane is the bad father trying to drag him down this dark path, with Hondo most likely being one of several characters within the story arc who try to guide Boba against following Cad Bane down that route. Hondo has a hard time understanding that Obi-Wan is letting him go after all that has happened, with Obi-Wan's warning of Dooku not doing the same thing eventually coming to pass 4 seasons later. Dooku Captured is a highlight episode within the Clone Wars' early seasons when it comes to the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, with their comedic banter being very entertaining. Ahsoka stating, "Let's try to not blow up the ship before they get off this time," hints at a past attempt where that has happened. I love how by this point within the show, that Ahsoka already knows Anakin so well that she doesn't believe his bullshit for a second. Obi-Wan represents the viewer here when he states he's enjoying this far too much, seeing Anakin make himself look like an arse. Anakin savours Dooku being imprisoned by Hondo, taunting him as much as he can. Anakin wonders how the pirates could capture Dooku when they couldn't, which to me is because the pirates are so deceptive. As further shown in the following episode, it's something that the Jedi are not able to ever convincingly pull off due to their teachings. The Republic having supplies of spice makes you wonder where they got it from. Perhaps they were able to secure some from their treaty with the Hutts that was formed at the conclusion of the Kidnapped Hutlet arc. The ending of Dooku captured doesn't seem to hint towards the events of the following episode, the Gungan General, though due to how close together the episodes were produced, I doubt the episode made it that far into development before that one was commissioned. I would not be surprised if Palpatine deliberately sends Jar Jar on this important mission to recover the literal leader of the Separatists because he has no faith that Jar Jar will succeed and actually wants the plan to fail so Dooku can escape and keep the Separatists at war with the Republic for more time yet. It's interesting how Palpatine didn't just send General Grievous to attack Hondo's pirate base on Florrum, considering Hondo knows that if the Separatists knew of the situation, they'd just attack the base. This episode featuring 3 characters being captured and recaptured reminds me of the 3rd episode of Ahsoka's Walkabout, Dangerous Debt, though here the dynamic between the 3 characters is stronger in my opinion. Though I do think it's possible that the original version of that episode that featured Nixo Kami and a younger Lando Calrissian could have been received more positively with their original intended characterizations for the story arc intact. I like how we get to see a bit of Jar Jar's intelligence in this episode. He's the one who surmises that the oncoming pirates could be the one who shot them down, showing how he isn't to be underestimated due to his seemingly bumbling demeanour. We also see this with him using the planet's wildlife to determine what parts of the planet is safe. I enjoy how this 2-part story arc gives us a look into another part of the Star Wars galaxy that wasn't really touched on by the 6 saga movies, that being the galaxy's space pirates. After having lore on the political factions and bounty hunters, it was only a matter of time before they added another faction into the mix. Hondo is an interesting, complex character who's got a grey area, juggling his morality depending on the situation. We would later see that he has a soft spot for Jedi younglings, especially the character of Katuni, as well as a young Boba Fett who had recently lost his father, something that would have most likely been included in the important but unreleased bounty hunter arc about Boba's code of honor, as mentioned several times already. This relationship most likely inspired the decision to include Hondo within Star Wars Rebels and feature a similar dynamic with him and Ezra. This is a character trait that is also shared by a post-Sith assassin Asajj Ventress, with her relating to and having an affinity for several younger characters, with her having suffered a lot as a child herself. Overall, this 2-part story arc is a fun and entertaining story, showing us elements of morality and wiggle room for characters like Obi-Wan and Dooku, who know in the moment that if they defeated their enemy, it would just make things worse for them. While Ahsoka takes a back seat for the majority of the story, her moments are memorable and show us what Anakin would have been like as a Padawan, an area that on-screen content unfortunately skips the majority of. I now have an active channel membership available. This will grant you exclusive perks like emojis in the comments, usernames listed in my outros, and updates to what's coming next posted exclusively for members in the community tab. But the best feature is you get 5 days early access to new videos and you will be supporting me at the same time. To find out more, you can click the join button on my channel page. Thank you to anyone who considers becoming a channel member. Thank you for watching. Please see the video description below for interesting links, sources and credits. My current goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe and comment. Until the next time, goodbye.